Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Success is a Choice podcasting network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and today we have a very, very special guest with us. Brian Stanchak joins us, and Brian is the founder of the BDS Agency. He is a super agent. He is representing many of the top college basketball coaches in America, especially on the women's side. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again, man. It's been a couple years since I was on the show last, so appreciate you bringing me back. I guess I did okay on the first one.
You did all right. It took a few years to bring you back, but yeah, you were actually the number 2 guest. You were the second episode of this, and I'm not sure I've gotten any better, but our graphics are better, and we're now on video.
Have you had the number 1 person back on your show?
I have not. Our number 1 guy was actually Dwayne Casey, and he was coach of the year when he was in the midst of a coach of the year season with the Toronto Raptors when I had him on. And unfortunately, the season just ended and he's moved on to the front office with the Detroit Pistons. But yeah, Dwayne Casey was our very first guest. He was very, gracious to come on, and you were our second guest. So congrats on being an encore performer. It took a few years.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
But you are, I'm going to assume that most people watching this didn't necessarily join us 5 years ago when we first launched this podcast. But tell us a little bit about, you're an agent. Most of us know agents as like Jerry Maguire, but the movie. But tell us a little bit about where you were at. You were a coach yourself, and then you became an agent. How did that transpire?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of fell into it. I've told this story so many times that when I was in school at Seton Hall University, going through the business and sport management program, I felt like every student at Seton Hall at the time wanted to be a sports agent, and I wanted to be a college basketball coach. And now looking back, I probably am the only one that is a sports agent. And so it's funny how life takes you on these twists and turns. But yeah, I'd coached college basketball at Seton Hall, Fairleigh Dickinson, University of Pennsylvania. Got out of it when I was 28 and transitioned to athletic administration. And then during that time, I just started advising a lot of my former colleagues and friends on the women's side, because I had coached for 5 years on the women's side at Penn, Fairleigh Dickinson, and Seton Hall, just on their contracts and handling situations with administrators and an interview prep. And a couple of them said to me, "Hey, do you want to be my agent?" And my initial thought was, absolutely not. I have no interest in being an agent. But the more I thought about it, there weren't many people at the time that were advocating specifically for women's basketball coaches, especially women's basketball coaches at the low and mid-major level, or assistants who wanted to be a head coach. And so started my business back in 2013 and have not looked back since.
Do you remember the first time you got paid to advise one of your friends or people in your network? Do you remember the first time you got a check or got some cash in your hands for doing this?
Yeah, it probably was like $250, which, I was in athletic administration. And so you don't get paid very much in that business either. So it was good. It was solid. But yeah, and that was the thing. Like I was fortunate to do my AD job as I started my business. And so for about a year. I had started my business, had grown it, had 5 clients become first-time Division I head coaches within the first year. My wife was pregnant with our first child, and I was going to take a significant pay cut. And I'm like, so I'm going to quit my AD job that provides our benefits and take, let's see how this agent business can roll, cause I was fortunate to build a foundation to kind of build off of. And so, luckily she was extremely supportive and had a job that also had benefits that we could switch to. And so, it just took that leap of faith. And I don't know at the time, I guess I was young and naive. And I look back and I'm like, man, took some, to just give up a, great job, great pay, all benefits to provide for your family with a newborn on the way. But, it was well worth the risk.
Well, spoiler alert to everybody wanting to tune in and find out what happened. It worked out for you.
All these athletic administrators are going to go quit their jobs now and start businesses.
Yeah. Well, it's easy. It's like a hot knife going through butter. It's just easy.
Yeah.
You just come in with a fancy suit. Maybe you slam your fist on the table, you have a great line, and all of a sudden you're making millions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
Well, seriously though, like what does an agent do? Give us kind of, not necessarily a day in the life, because every day can be a little bit different, but what does specifically a college basketball agent kind of do?
Yeah. Well, I think every agent might work with their clients differently. My approach though is, again, I'm a former coach, I'm a former administrator. And so I view working with my clients as, if I was a coach, what would I want or expect from my agent? And so, communication is first and foremost, in the good, the bad, when you do know something, when you don't know something, that way there's nothing left unsaid. One of my clients, Robin Freilich, always says that, she had this great quote about communication, and I'm trying to remember it now, but it's, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically, it talks about not assuming. Not assuming, over communicate and under assume, over communicate and under assume. And so I think that's a big approach to being an agent. And so for me, it's one, being a career counselor and being able to advise clients in their current position, whether they're a head coach who may be having trouble with issues with their staff, might be having issues with their administration, might need to hire an assistant coach, might be dealing with player issues. And so, I feel like, and my wife says this sometimes, she's like, I feel like your job is like psychologist or, counselor more than anything else. And it's true. There's a lot of that, advising and just being that counsel. Then there's the marketing component and being able to, promote clients and make sure people within the industry and athletic administrators know who they are. And then it's the job pursuits and being able to market clients for certain positions that are available, and being able to advise them on the best strategies to go about trying to get in the mix for those positions. And then once they're in the mix, it's the interview prep and doing all we can to try to help them obtain the position, and just maximizing all aspects of the search process. These Division I head coaching jobs are incredibly difficult to get. And so every part of the search process has to play out perfectly. And so we're advising in all areas, whether it's the reference calls, whether it's the interview materials, whether it's what you say or what you shouldn't say on an interview. And then the last aspect is contract negotiation and making sure that we are protecting our clients as much as possible and maximizing the financial terms of the contract. And I always got to think worst case scenario when I view the contract. So we're trying to maximize things, get them as much guaranteed money, get them as much protection as possible, especially if things towards the end aren't working out as expected.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people, obviously we see, the big time, especially at the men's level, the big time Division I men's coach, when they get fired, a lot of times they have that golden parachute or they have this buyout, but that's not always the case. Even at the men's side, at the mid-major level, or certainly at the women's level, the salaries aren't necessarily where they probably should be for everybody. And so it is important to squeeze as much out of that contract and protect your clients as much as possible.
Well, I have these conversations with potential clients or coaches all the time. And, I think so many coaches just view it as, did my agent help get me more money? And it's like, yeah, the base salary component of it is huge, but a good agent can pay for themselves and some with bonuses that coaches can obtain in contracts or supplemental compensation that coaches can get in contracts. Working out favorable terms upon termination in terms of head coaches leaving for one position to another and owing a buyout or being terminated. I mean, I had one client who was a head coach. I mean, they were essentially wanting to make him at will. And I fought for almost a year, telling him not to sign the contract. Do not sign this contract, like fighting hard and until it got fully guaranteed. And the person was let go with 1 year left on the contract, got significant amount of money and far exceeded anything that, I was paid. And so, I'm looking out for them as best as possible. Obviously the base salary, everyone looks at that, or the guaranteed compensation, but there's so many aspects that you might not think about until things do go wrong, or you have to, you start collecting on those bonuses, or you do look for another job.
Well, and that's important too, because, when we start off, we never think that it's going to end badly. And we also, as coaches, we have a lot of confidence in our abilities. So there's this honeymoon phase, or we think everything's going to be great. And so that's very important to have somebody there fighting for us or thinking about the things we're not seeing.
Yeah. No, it's critical. And, and I explain that to the ADs or general counsels, like I understand that, I might be nitpicking this stuff, but, it's my job to prepare for worst case scenario. And yeah, I mean, listen, you can trust an AD, or you can trust, the general counsel, but at the end of the day, who knows if that person's going to be there also, in 2 years, 3 years. And then all of a sudden, you get someone in who's going to read the contract differently than how it's, that general counsel intended it to be. And then you're kind of screwed. So you try to make it as favorable, if not balanced as possible and clear, not much black and white or, more favorable towards them.
Well, every assistant coach wants to be a head coach. Every mid-major coach probably wants to be a Power 5 head coach as well. How do you balance that when maybe a coach wants to, Jamy just wants this job, but you might not think that that's a very good fit for them. It's almost setting them up for failure, or the odds are going to be so stacked against you. I'm not sure if that's come down your way.
Yeah.
But if it has, how have you handled that? Or just talk about, just even in general, the fit of a job.
Yeah, I'm very honest with clients. And I don't say this, please do not take this in an arrogant way, but like I've had enough success with, we've had 68 clients become first time or obtain new Division I head coach positions. And so it's not about getting as many people Division I head coaching jobs as possible. It's about getting coaches in the position where they can be as successful as possible for as long as possible. Because if they're in that spot and it's a great job and a great fit, the longer they're there or the more successful they are, the better it is for the both of us. And so you also got to balance the fact that, okay, there might be jobs that are not fits for someone, but based on their, experience and profile, but might be fit for someone who can't be as selective about, the opportunities. And so I'll also share that, because I might say, listen, like this job might not be a great fit for you. I might have other clients that it's a great fit for, but this is why I don't think, and I'll support them 100%. I mean, there's only been 1 or 2 times that I've had clients turn down jobs that I was kind of like, man, that it still kind of guts me a little bit. And that's in 10 years, but like, I could give you countless examples of clients where I wasn't being paid anything until obviously they took a head coaching job or, renegotiated their contract. And I was willing to not be paid anything just because I didn't think that was a right fit for them. So just being as honest as possible with them, and then supporting them through that as well, and giving them clear reasons why. And again, it's ultimately up to them and what's going to make them happy. So if they decide to move forward with it, even though I've told them, all the negatives about it, then all right, I'm ready to roll and do everything I can to make it, a good experience for them.
Well, and part of that, as your job as an agent, as you said, you try to do more than just be a contract person, more than just the lawyer, or more than just that dot the I's, cross the T's type person. And you're not going to know if a job is a fit for a person if you haven't gotten to know your clients very well.
Yeah. And that's the thing, this time of year, I get so many phone calls, and it's been a while since I've taken on a new client, but everyone wants an agent when, they start seeing your clients get, head coaching jobs, and it's flattering, or, the job market starts moving. But, the one thing, and I still have a hard time with it, with kind of sharing it, is hey, they said, well, what do you look for in clients? And it's the relationship piece. Relationships are built in the off season, and if I don't know someone, I don't have time to get to know them and what their strengths and weaknesses are, or the best way to sell them. But I also want to work. It's at the end of the day, it's my business too. And I want to work with great people. I want to work with people that I want to advocate for and support and promote and root for, not just from a professional level, but from a personal level. And so that relationship piece is huge. And so there's a lot of times I'll say, hey, just follow up, when the job market slows down and my conference is over in May, and we'll, and we'll reconnect and start getting to know each other. And you don't know how many times I don't hear anything. And then February, March comes around, and then, hey, you taking on new clients? And it's am I wasting my breath even responding at this point, And so, yeah, it's the relationship piece is huge.
Well, I've had the fortune of knowing a number of your clients, and, there obviously there's a lot of traits and qualities that are common among all of them, or among a lot of them, but I love how coachable a lot of them are, and how willing they are to learn and grow and develop. And I think that goes into the relationship piece too, that they're just not looking for transactional or a quick fix, or, hey, let's hire Brian and he will get us a job. They understand that it's a longer game, it's a process, and they're coachable about stuff.
Oh yeah. Listen, I'm probably the worst salesman of myself when it comes to new clients, because I don't want any false expectations. I don't want people to think, oh, I signed with Brian, I'm going to get a head coaching job, or I'm going to get a better contract, whatever it might be. Listen, I have a great proven track record of success. I have extreme confidence in my ability to be able to maximize careers and contracts for my clients and coaches. But I can't promise what jobs are going to be open. I can't promise when those jobs are open, what they're going to be looking for. I can only do so much. Ultimately, you're going to be hired because of the job that you do, or your contract's going to be dictated in terms of, how much leverage we have based on the job that you do. So it's a team effort in that aspect. And I'll tell clients, potential clients, listen, I can't promise you anything. There might be nothing that materializes in this next year. And you got to be okay with that. And if you're not, then I'm not the guy for you, just because, again, I just don't want any false expectations that, I signed with Brian, I'm going to have all these opportunities, because I don't know what could be available.
Well, you have a huge stable of coaches, or a huge team of coaches around you, that you've been successful with getting jobs. Have there been times that 2 or even 3 of your clients have been up for the same job? And if so, how have you handled that?
Oh, sure. It happens quite often. And again, my job is to promote clients and be able to get them in the mix. At the end of the day, the AD is not hiring my client because they like me. They're hiring them because the person fit what they were looking for and did a great job on the interview. And so, as if I can get them in the mix for a job, after that, I'm advising everyone differently, but I'm still helping one person try to get the job as much as I am with the other 2 that are getting the job. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of times there are, but that's part of, the relationships that I've developed with search firms and with administrators where they trust me and they know, okay, especially on the women's side, like if I need a women's basketball coach, like I'm going to call Brian, I'm going to trust his recommendations. And so I'm transparent with clients too. Like I'll let them know, hey, just, there's another client. And that's why like some of these agents don't promote like who gets the job, like that they had a client get a job, because they don't want to, piss off other clients that, one client got the job because they didn't tell the others that there was another client in the mix. And I don't play favorites. I don't like it's, I treat everyone equally in terms of, how fair and balanced I am in terms of, promoting them for opportunities if they're a fit for that job. That's the first question I ask ADs is, what are you looking for? What's important to you? And if they fit and they're interested, then I'm going to share. And so, I'll tell clients, hey, I know that these other people are in the mix, but there's also a couple other clients in the mix. And, yeah, I mean, there's a few that, haven't really liked it, but for the most part, it's never really been an issue.
So for those assistant coaches that are listening to this, they want to be head coaches, maybe for the first time, or they've been a head coach before, didn't work out or whatever, they're back being an assistant coach. You can kind of go with this however you want or answer both parts of this, but what advice would you have for an assistant coach to prepare to be a head coach, to make, to optimize their chances of becoming a head coach? So preparing now as an assistant coach, and, or once they do get that opportunity to be a head coach, making that transition as smooth as possible from an assistant to a head coach.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in terms of helping promote yourself and trying to get that opportunity, it's, being able to build and maintain relationships with your athletic administrators at your current positions, as well as your former positions, get to know the search firms that are in the industry that are leaders in terms of doing these searches. Because think about it, like at the end of the day, like an AD at your university is not going to put an AD at another university in a bad position. A head coach might give them a call because they want to get you off their staff, or they might want to, I mean, it's true. Like they might want to, or like, people think the biggest name matters. And it's like, well, you never worked for this person. You got them calling me. Why didn't you ever hire this person when you had an opening on your staff, if they're that good? And so I think like getting to know your administrators is huge. And then as far as preparing yourself right now, it's taking on as much responsibility outside of the X's and O's and recruiting that you can do. Be involved in budget meetings, be involved in compliance meetings, be involved in player disciplinary meetings, like take your hands and get them involved. Ask your head coach to empower you with managing staff, whether it's GAs or video coordinators or ops or whatever it might be. So that way, one, when you're going through the interview process, you got proven examples that you can talk about that you've done these things, but also two, you're more prepared to handle those things, because that's where, again, most head coaches, a lot of great head coaches, or a lot of great coaches, a lot of great recruiters, but a lot of bad head coaches, just because they're not prepared for the other responsibilities that come with it.
Well, everybody has to go through an interview when they become, when they want to be a head coach. What are some things that you've seen that people just, they shoot themselves in the foot, or they do just stupid stuff, or maybe they're not just prepared for the interview? What are some things that people can do a little bit better with the interview process?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is do not show any signs of hesitation. If you go in and you're questioning if this is a job that you want, or, like one, don't waste their time interviewing for it. But two, it's going to show, like in the questions that you ask, it's going to show in your demeanor. And so you're not going to get that job. And that's, and it's feedback I've gotten at times, like they seemed unsure of if this was, the position, was right for them. And so I think like going in with 110% confidence that you want this job, regardless of, what their end result is or what you decide at the end. But if you show that hesitancy with it, think about it then at the end and you're like, you know what, this is a great place. You can't restart the interview.
Mm.
And so just making sure that you're committed and that you're going in with 110% confidence and that you're letting them know that this is a job that you want. That honestly is the biggest thing.
Well, what are some things that you've seen coaches do to screw up once they are a head coach? Obviously not every single one of your hires have been perfect and gone on to win a championship
Sure.
after being hired. And some of your new hires take the place of people that maybe there was high expectations or a lot of excitement, and then they didn't get the job done. Are there some common threads or some things that coaches tend to do that hurt them once they get the job?
Yeah, I think hiring your staff is so critical, and just hiring people that can um, strengthen your weaknesses and hide your weaknesses. That's the first thing. But then next, when they get there, empowering them and letting them do those things. Like, don't put your ego aside. I mean, I have one head coach who, yeah, like, I think her, weakness is kind of like drawing up the end of the game stuff. And, and she has her assistants doing it, and I see this a lot. And it's not that, it might not be a weakness, but like that's what their strength is. That's what they're in tune with. That's what they're focusing on year round while she's focusing on the bigger picture. And so it's, hiring people that can hide and strengthen your weaknesses, and then empowering them to do it when they get there, and not constantly, shooting them down in every area, or not, giving them that responsibility when they're there.
So you mentioned search firms before, and some of the people listening to this won't ever deal with a search firm or a search process that has a search firm. But if they are involved in a search that has a search firm, is there any advice for dealing with a search firm? Do they reach out to a search firm? Do they send stuff to a search firm? How do they handle that?
Yeah. I mean, the search firms, all the ones I deal with are great. They're willing, like, it's the same thing, like building a relationship with an agent. Like, you can't be, I mean, there's going to be times where they might not know you and you reach out about a job and, you're a fit. So you're going to get a chance to be in the mix. But, people will say at times like, oh, search firms play favorites. And it's like, well, they play favorites with people that they've been involved with for an interview before that did well, but might not have gotten that certain job. So when another job pops up, they might call me and say, hey, Brian, is this person interested? And it's like, yeah, I'll ask them, because they did a great job in the interview. And it's like, you want, same thing with hiring a staff. Like, you want to hire people that that you feel comfortable with. You want a search firm, wants to put someone in front of the AD that they know is also going to be prepared and is going to make them look good, that they're bringing someone in that like can do a good job during the interview process. And that's the thing. Like, I've had so many clients that, I'm just even looking, like, if I look at my board now, like, some of these clients had interviewed for 2-3 head coaching jobs and didn't get them, or might have turned down 1 or 2. And it's like, you can't be discouraged by that. And like, you can't take it personal. It might not be anything that you've done. It just might be maybe a connection that they had to that administrator that made them feel a little bit more comfortable, or there might be something in their background that made them feel a little bit more comfortable. But just because you're not a fit for that job doesn't mean you're not a fit for any other job that's out there. And so, like, I've had so many times where clients lost out on jobs that, they thought were great, and then next year got something that was 100 times better and paid double what they would have made. And it's just amazing how those things work out.
Well, we will be back in just a moment to finish up with the most important question of the day, of how to actually maximize your opportunity to be a head coach or a better coach where you're at. But first, I want to remind everybody that the Success is a Choice podcast network is made possible by the leadershipplaybook.com. We all want a strong and healthy culture, and the best way to have a good culture is by having great teammates and positive leaders. That's where the leadershipplaybook.com can help you out. In fact, you'll get 25% off the price when you use coupon code CHOICE, as in success is a choice. So whether you're a coach, administrator, parent, or student athlete, you'll want to visit the playbook.com and use coupon code CHOICE to get 25% off. So I mentioned, how can somebody maximize their potential to be a head coach or to be a better coach where they're at? And I would say one of the greatest ways to do that is by coming to your event, the Head Coach Training Center.
I'm glad you're doing the shameless plug instead of me. No, it's so, I started Head Coach Training Center back in 2016. And what it is I saw that there were a lot of head coaches, and you kind of asked me this question before. There were a lot of head coaches that were failing, not because of being bad coaches, or not getting jobs because they weren't good coaches. It was because of all the other aspects. And so I saw that there was nothing else out there. You could watch videos on YouTube. You could go to clinics all over the country, every state, 30 clinics a year on the court. But there was nothing about off the court professional development and all other aspects of becoming a head coach, obtaining that position or obtaining a new head coach position, and then being successful in the role. And so I started Head Coach Training Center back in 2016. This year we have it May 8th to the 10th at Margaritaville Resort in Orlando, Florida. I always do it at a resort because, for me, I want to make it not just an event or a conference. I want to make it an experience. And so when people step on that resort, and that day, that networking mixer ends on Monday, or that session ends on Tuesday night, people don't feel like they got to get in a cab and go somewhere else. And then they're not mingling with everyone else at the conference. And networking does not stop, for basically 48 hours, from when you step on property. And so we have, this year we have some incredible speakers. Dawn Plitzwhite, who's the new head coach at Minnesota, will be there. Tobin Anderson, who's the new head coach at Iona, will be there. We have some other incredible speakers. We have administrators, Division I ADs, search firm executives, industry leaders, and it's just a really well-rounded, balanced conference that teaches coaches strategies to not just obtain a first-time or new head coach position, but be successful in the role. And so it's not limited to just those, who want to be a head coach one day, because honestly, our head coach attendees, whether it's Division I, II, III, whatever it might be, they say that they get more out of it than I think even the aspiring head coaches, because they're able to apply the information that they learn right away.
Well, one of the things I like about your conference is that it's not just a networking conference. It's not just a this is how to find a job conference. It's not 2 days of only this is what you do in an interview. There's plenty of that, but it's also just helping you be a better coach, helping you, there's different segments, because, and this is a mistake a lot of people make in the interview, is it's like when we were in college, we cram for a test. We didn't learn the material during the year, but then we're trying to cram it in the night before our test. Well, a lot of times people take that interview process the same way. Oh, now I have to get my thoughts together about what kind of coach I'm going to be. And it's like, well, the last year you should have been that kind of coach. You should have been preparing for that interview year round. And so I love that your conference, the Head Coach Training Center, really helps develop the overall coach. And yeah, there's plenty of interview stuff. There's plenty of, should you send a packet or not send a packet, plenty of that kind of stuff, but there's also lots of growth and development opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, you'll get that, what are questions that coaches need to be prepared for to answer during the interview process? Or what do you think about the portfolio? But it's also, hey, how can you do more with less at a university that might not have the resources of a Power 5? Or, what are you really going through mentally as, through a rebuild? And so those things are just really, really important for coaches to hear. And, we've had over 100 former attendees go on and obtain a first time or new Division I head coach position. And so, I'm not taking, I'm taking very minimal credit in terms of that, but it just, I think that it just shows like the impact that, just something so unique can kind of provide in terms of the path of so many coaches.
Well, there's plenty of athletic directors there, both at large institutions and smaller institutions. There's plenty of coaches. And it's amazing to me that some of Well, I won't say it's amazing, but you have so many opportunities to network, make connections, and then follow up with those people afterwards. Yeah. And, some people are going to do it and some people aren't. And when you were on our podcast, about 5 years ago or whenever it was, in episode 2, you made a comment, something to the effect of networking isn't just the day you need something from someone, but it's the other 364 days of the year. It's all those other days. That's when the networking really matters. And you should be connecting with people those other days, not just the one day you need them.
Yeah. And that's the other great thing about the conference is, we limit it to 100 registrants. And so it's like, you're one of 100 people that are there. It's so much easier for people to remember you there than being at NABC or WBCA where they're meeting hundreds and hundreds of people. And so it impacts. So yeah, there's been a lot of times where people, and it's not just clients. I mean, whether it's clients or non-clients that have gotten in the mix or gotten interviews for jobs, because of, being there and networking with the search firms or administrators that are there. And then, the other part that's been awesome is, and, I've seen it more so from like clients that are there, and it wasn't anything I set up or did, but like I can think of like 3 or 4 instances of clients hiring people on their staffs and me being like, oh, I see you got, this person there. They're like, yeah, I met him at Head Coach Training Center, and that sometimes is even more meaningful because it was like, like that wouldn't have happened if you weren't in this small, intimate networking environment that, that we created. So it's kind of, it covers all bases.
Well, he's Brian Stanchak, and appreciate your insights. Appreciate your time. Follow him. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at BD Stan, and that's in the show notes as well. Also, if you want to become a millionaire coach, his cell number is, just kidding. We would not do that.
I got, like the sad part is I have had to set up on my phone the, it doesn't ring when you got an unknown number on because of the amount of spam calls. And it's not conducive to this time of year when administrators are calling. And so we'll avoid that. Twitter or my email is always the best thing. Brian at thebdsagency.com. And I promise I get back to everyone. It might not be right away, but I promise I get back to you. And then since you did the shameless plug of the Head Coach Training Center, that is headcoachtc.com if you want to register.
Awesome. I highly recommend following Brian on Twitter. Definitely follow the Head Coach Training Center as well, but check out the stuff he's doing. But more importantly, it's not about getting an agent. It's about being the best coach that you can be and setting yourself up for opportunities and then taking advantage of those opportunities. There's plenty of people that get head coaching jobs without agents. And there's plenty of people with agents that do a terrible job of coaching. So make sure that you're being the best coach that you can be and always growing, developing, and being a coachable coach as well. So Brian, thank you so much. And for everybody watching this, listening to this, whatever it is, if you would kindly smash that like button or just tap it. So if you don't want to break the screen on your phone, but we appreciate it. Share this, especially with a coach that like it, thumbs up, subscribe, whatever. But until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?